Hello there, YouTube crew. I'm the real Dill, and today we're going to be looking at Smile versus The Invitation. We're going to be starting out with concept and how well both of the movies do their concepts. Smile does the tried and true recent supernatural STD kind of thing with, except in this case, it clings onto trauma. There's not a ton of missteps in it, except for the ending. The ending kind of just sinks the whole movie. I will say there is a scene with Michael K. Williams, which gave it a lot of goodwill in my opinion. But the ending was just so like you can watching the movie, you'll come up with a better ending than what the movie does. The Invitation, on the other hand, starts off as kind of like a romantic, I don't know, drama, and then it slowly progresses into horror. Well, I mean, it actually starts out straight up horror, but then it shifts gears, and it almost gets into. Honestly, this is where I think the movie falls short. It has this kind of Get Out setup and escalation, but it doesn't go fully into that. Like, there's a lot of stuff with the extended family members, but crucially, the initial cousin that she meets and how that relationship changes as more information is unveiled. They really could have leaned further into that. As for the actual horror element, the monsters that we're dealing with, the movie kind of keeps it on the down low for the beginning half, and it's honestly kind of fun figuring out what the monsters are. So I won't spoil that because that was part of the fun of my watch, and it is a genuinely fun movie to watch. Moving on to story development. Now with Smile, you'll get ahead of the characters, and that's not always a bad thing. But with this movie being an investigation, and you not only get ahead of the characters, but like it plays out exactly the questions that you've already answered yourself, and there's no real twist, there's no real spin on the information, there's no new direction that you didn't see coming. It's on one hand it can be irritating, on another hand it's just kind of a letdown. And honestly, it's not so bad that you couldn't forgive it, but again, I'm going to hark on it because of the ending. Like, I've got to point it out as a negative because it's just it could have been so much better. Similarly, on the Invitation, you will see a lot of the story turns coming, especially the major one. But it sits right within the genre and the tone that it's established. And that honestly is what makes it such a fun watch. Where in Smile it kind of undercuts the movie, in this it's part of the magic of the movie, especially when you're watching it with a group. I think The Invitation is. I mean, most horror movies are good group movies, but this is especially a fun movie that's not fun to laugh at. It's fun to engage with the movie, and it surprisingly ends with a very nice stinger to the movie. It got me wondering if they could pull off a sequel, and I honestly think if they changed directions, went full B movie, exploitation movie, I think they could pull it off in a really cool way. On to characters. The leads are pretty comparable, but I will say Natalie Emanuel, she's much prettier to me, so points in favor for The Invitation. You don't need much more from Smiles periphery characters like the Dr. Kumar and the therapist. They all do their job in the movie. But where it fell short majorly is on the fiance and the cop. Like, there's a really good conflict hidden in there that the movie fumbles on how she chooses between them. It, re- it honestly is so underdeveloped. It's kind of baffling. Like, that should have been a major conflict, a major secondary conflict to the movie. The sister, as annoying as she was at the beginning of the movie, she's actually pretty well done. And again, the only thing that messes that up for me is the ending. Now, The Invitation has a creepy cast of characters. I mean, like I told you, the Get Out kind of feel to the movie, especially in the middle portion of it. Especially Sean Pertwee, he does a fantastic job. And there was a dynamic between these two women that it was really interesting to see. It had you could tell there's a long history to it, and it was a long history to it. And the one character, she has probably the only true arc in the story. And honestly, I just wish their whole part of it was fleshed out a bit more. I wanted to see more of those two characters. And the other one, I felt she's a little too hostile. Like, I feel like they should have played with more subtlety on that. Yeah, I think it'll work better for the movie. But that's more of a nitpick than an actual negative. The male lead was great too. He has fantastic chemistry with the main girl, and as my sister pointed out when we were watching it, like were this not a horror movie and were it actually a romance movie, perfect casting for them. They were fantastic together. You could have the same setup to her getting into well, it wasn't London, wherever they were. You could have that same setup and do a good romance movie with these two guys. Whatever. Guys is gender neutral. Oh, the best friend was, kind of generic, pretty one note. And she did get a little thing at the end, but again, it's not as good as Get Out, how Get Out did it. Moving on to visuals, the cinematography on The Invitation is pretty fantastic. So points to it. It's just a beautiful looking movie. Both get points for their horror elements and their creature designs. I thought they were both pretty good in that. I will point out one small, huge nitpick I had with The Invitation. So it's the opening scene, and a lady, she commits suicide in a way that I know, and the movie later validates that was decapitation. And they show the statue head crash and break, and like you can intuit it's a metaphor for her own head coming off, but and like it's PG-13, so they can't really show it. And I honestly think it's more effective the way they did, except one major detail: they should have had blood into the screen after the head shattered, and that would indicate, oh yeah, that is exactly what happened. Her head came off, and it's small, but it bothered me throughout the entire movie. So that's a -1, and then the ending of Smile, -12. So when you stack all the points together, you can clearly see I preferred The Invitation. I think you would prefer The Invitation. You can check out Smile. You're just going to be very disappointed when the credits roll. So go at your own peril. I'm the real deal. Glad you stuck by with me. Goodbye. You're still here? Huh. Well, I guess you can hear me give my how I would end the movie. So, in my version, you tweak some of the sister and nephew thing, and you would have. I mean, obviously, the I don't understand how this wasn't what her plan was. Get into isolation. I thought she's going to commit suicide by herself. That way, the supernatural entity could not pass on to anyone because there had to be a witness, there had to be death in some form, right? And so if you stay alive, it'll eventually take over your mind and it'll do it for you. But if you take matters into your own hands, you go out into the woods alone or wherever alone, where nobody's going to see it happen and nobody's going to find you for a while, I think you have an opportunity to beat the thing. You take the sacrifice. But she's like, I don't know what exactly her plan was. Like, I'm a therapist, so I have a strong mind, so I'll overcome it. And that's not plainly stated, but I guess by the time whatever battle between them happens, that's what we're supposed to get out of it. And of course, it doesn't work. My thing is, you can go like I like her going to the house that was set up previously, and that they should tear it down and this and that. That's what the sister wants. So she decides to go to that house, set it on fire, take it like a champ or whatever, hang herself, do something, suicide. Except the sister and the nephew show up, and the nephew comes to the window and sees her die. Like right as she's doing it, she can't take it back once she's eye contact with him. It's such a bitter way to end the movie that's so way much better than what actually happened. And honestly, because it would be like the movie Fallen, where you're following Denzel Washington. He's figuring out what's happening when he finally he's like, oh well, if the demon can only survive 2 miles without a host, I'm going to go out to the woods, kill my partner who's being possessed and kill myself before he possesses me, and then he's got nowhere to go except he forgot the key detail that the demon could possess animals, and the audience forgets that detail too until the narration takes over. And like, that it's like you have a very smart protagonist make a great move, and it just doesn't work. And that's what this movie should have ended with. And the fact that she traumatized her nephew earlier, and you have that lingering shot on him. It seemed like they were setting up this kind of full circle thing where she passes it on to him, and